The Vampire King's Love, Part 2. Igor. I've kept Yvonne close since the night she discovered I was a vampire, and she accepted me, fangs and all, without hesitation. It is a gift I never imagined I'd have. After centuries of loneliness, she is my solace, my future, my queen. She looks at me with such warmth, such trust, that at times I forget I am not merely a man, but a creature burdened by a darkness older than memory. Tonight the moon shines over my ancestral estate. Evon and I have been living here for the past few weeks, away from the city's prying eyes. Within the towering stone walls, we have finally found peace, a tranquil space to understand each other better, or so I hoped. The quiet of the evening feels both comforting and ominous. My senses remain on high alert, as if expecting a threat at every turn, an instinct carved into me long ago. Still, watching Yvonne twirl around the marble foyer as she hums a soft tune, the tension eases in my chest. She catches me staring. "What?" she asks playfully, cheeks flushing. I allow a rare smile to surface. "You look beautiful when you sing." Flatterer. She steps closer, placing her hands on my chest. But I like hearing it anyway. For a moment, all I see is her, the woman who saved me all those years ago, who brought me back from the edge, and who continues to show me that I am worthy of love. I lean down, pressing a slow kiss to her lips. In the distance, an owl screeches. My heightened senses pick up something else, a disturbance in the aura that surrounds our estate. The silver ring on my index finger, an old family heirloom that resonates with dark energy, feels colder than usual. A warning. I tighten my hold on Yvonne's waist. "Stay close to me tonight," I whisper, my voice low. She furrows her brow. "Is something wrong?" I hesitate. The tension in the air is subtle but real. I'm not entirely sure. I push back my unease. I don't want to rob us of this moment with vague omens. But promise me you'll be careful. She searches my eyes for answers but nods, her fingers curling into the fabric of my shirt. I promise. Evon. When Igor says he feels something is off, I believe him. My life has taught me to trust instincts, and his are more finely tuned than mine could ever be. Though the sprawling corridors of this estate make me feel small, I refuse to be helpless again. I'm stronger than I used to be. Strong enough to love Igor, fangs and all, and accept that a world I once believed impossible is very much real. The night seems darker than usual, the moonlight colder. I head to our room to gather my thoughts. Igor trails behind me, silently protective. "Talk to me," I say over my shoulder. "Don't keep me in the dark." He sighs. I've learned to trust these feelings even. Something stirs in the shadows. An ancient presence, older than me, perhaps. His voice lowers. Someone who would love nothing more than to see me suffer. A chill courses through me. "You think it has something to do with your being king?" Igor nods gravely. "As the Alpha Vampire King, I've made more enemies than I can count. Old feuds, grudges. Some fade with time, others never do." Despite the dread creeping into my heart, I hold his gaze. "We'll face it together, right?" He gathers me in his arms, breath warm against my temple. "Always." Hours pass, and we settle in for the night. I doze off to the rhythmic sound of Igor's heartbeat, lulled by the sense of security he provides. But I dream restlessly. Images of crimson eyes and cold laughter haunt my sleep, and I jolt awake to find the bed empty. "Igor?" I call into the darkness. Silence. Fear grips me. I slip out of bed and step into the corridor lit by old-fashioned lanterns. A faint clang echoes from somewhere below, and my pulse skyrockets. The estate is massive, full of twisting hallways and locked rooms. I follow the sound cautiously, adrenaline burning through my veins. A sudden blur of motion catches me off guard. Pain explodes at the back of my skull, and the world spins. Hands, icy and inhumanly strong, clamp around my arms. I try to scream for Igor, but a cloth presses over my mouth, muffling my voice. My eyelids grow heavy, darkness closing in. Igor. The uneasy presence I felt earlier grew stronger, so I left Evon momentarily to investigate. My search leads me to the courtyard where I find nothing but a faint trace of unfamiliar energy. Frustration gnaws at me. Who would dare infiltrate my estate? Alarm flares inside me, sudden and intense. Evon. I turn on my heel and race back inside, the sound of my footsteps echoing loudly against stone walls. When I reach our bedroom, my heart drops at the sight of the door slightly ajar. The sheets are rumpled and she is gone. Evon! I roar, my voice cracking. No answer. The cold ring on my finger sends a jolt through me. An ancient presence indeed. My fists clench as I force myself to think clearly. I pick up the faintest trace of her scent in the corridor, a mix of citrus and lavender, intertwined with a stench that turns my stomach. Vampire, but not one of mine. Following that vile odor leads me to a shattered window at the far end of the estate. My blood surges with fury. They dared enter my domain, and they dared take her. I vow to find them, even if I have to level entire kingdoms. Evon. My head throbs when I regain consciousness. I'm bound to a chair in a dimly lit room that smells of damp stone. Dripping water echoes in a slow, menacing rhythm. The air is bitterly cold, prickling my skin. I blink, trying to steady my vision and see a silhouette in front of me. A tall figure with crimson eyes. It's a woman, her midnight hair pulled into a tight braid. She looks at me like I'm some fascinating creature on display. Awake at last, she purrs. Her voice is smooth but dripping with malice. I press my lips together, refusing to show fear. Who are you? She chuckles, circling me. My name is Lilith. Not that it matters much. She leans in, her breath icy on my cheek. You're merely bait. My chest tightens. Bait for Igor. A smirk curves her lips. Precisely. And I see you already know about his special condition. I glare at her. If you think I'm going to help you hurt him. Lilith cuts me off, dragging a sharp lacquered nail along my jawline. I wince, but hold her gaze. Hurt him? Oh, darling, I intend to destroy him. And you, my dear, are the key. He cares for you in a way he's never cared for anyone. She laughs, a sound devoid of warmth. The unstoppable king has a weakness. How poetic. Anger and fear coil within me, but I refuse to be helpless. I inhale slowly, steadying my voice. He will come for me, and you'll regret this. Lilith seems amused. I certainly hope he does. It'll be so delightful to watch his expression the moment I crush the last shred of hope from his eyes. I stiffen, forcing down the terror that surges at her threat. Instead, I think of Igor, his kindness, the lengths he has gone to protect me, and the love that burns behind his guarded eyes. I won't break. He needs me to be strong. Igor. It doesn't take long to summon my most trusted allies among the vampire clans, those who have sworn loyalty to me. Together we track Lilith's lair to a hidden fortress deep in the old mountains where ancient vampires once lurked. The moon bathes the landscape in a pale glow as we approach silently. One of my men, Adrian, glances at me warily. My king, Lilith is formidable. I let out a low growl. Not formidable enough to take what is mine. He bows his head, saying no more. I scale the fortress walls with preternatural agility, my senses alive with adrenaline. The only thought that pierces the haze of fury in my mind is Yvonne. I can almost feel her heartbeat, sense her fear. I will save her, even if it means cutting down every last vampire in this cursed place. Inside, the corridors reek of decay and old blood. I sense sentries guarding each turn, but they are no match for my rage. In seconds, they lie prone, unconscious, or worse. My allies fan out, keeping any reinforcements at bay. A heavy door looms ahead, behind which I hear an all-too-familiar voice, Yvonne's. I break it down with a single kick, the wood splintering beneath my strength. And there, in a circle of torchlight, is Lilith, standing behind Yvonne, who is bound to a chair. My heart thunders at the sight of Yvonne trembling, her eyes locked on me the moment I enter. Igor! Her voice rings with relief. Lilith places a cold hand on Evan's shoulder, making my blood boil. King, she sneers. You've come. I bare my fangs. Release her. Now. Lilith laughs, running her nails through Evan's hair. You truly have fallen, Igor. Look at you, once unstoppable, brought to your knees by a mortal. Evan manages a fierce glare. I'm more than just a mortal. Lilith's grip tightens. Oh yes, your spirit is admirable, but it won't save you. I can barely contain the torrent of rage coursing through my veins. Lilith, if you so much as harm a hair on her head, she raises an eyebrow. You'll kill me? Go ahead and try. Without warning, Lilith rakes her nails across Evan's arm, drawing blood. No, I roar. My vision swims with crimson. In an instant, I launch myself forward. Lilith meets me with a savage grin, her own fangs bared. We clash in a whirlwind of feral snarls and inhuman speed. She's strong, centuries old, rumored to have once ruled a kingdom of her own. But she underestimates the depth of my fury. Sparks fly as our bodies collide, the stone floor cracking beneath our struggle. I manage to grip Lilith's wrist, twisting until she screams. Evan's strangled cry spurs me on, reminding me I cannot fail. You will never threaten her again. I snarl, my eyes glowing with power. The ring on my finger grows cold, channeling dark energy into my body. Lilith realizes the tide has turned, and her smirk falters. She tries to lunge away, but I clamp a hand around her throat, slamming her against the wall. My fangs ache to tear her apart. You lost the moment you took her. Fear flickers in Lilith's gaze. With a final surge, she tries to push me back, but I press her down with an iron grip, unleashing every ounce of my alpha strength. The fortress walls tremble, dust cascading from the ceiling. Unable to bear her presence any longer, I end it. With a twist of supernatural force, Lilith collapses, her eyes rolling back. My chest heaves as I cast her aside. Outside, the sounds of my allies mopping up the remaining intruders echo through the corridors. Evan. My entire body shakes with relief as Igor storms across the room, cutting me free from the ropes binding me to the chair. My arm stings where Lilith's nails dug into my skin, but the pain is nothing compared to the rush of gratitude and love I feel as he gathers me into his arms. Yvonne, he murmurs, pressing a trembling kiss to my forehead. I'm sorry it took me so long. It's okay, I manage, tears burning my eyes. You came. I cling to him, burying my face against his chest, inhaling the comforting scent of him. You saved me. He holds me so tightly I can barely breathe, but I wouldn't have it any other way. My heart pounds with residual fear, but the strength of Igor's embrace grounds me. We are alive, together. You fought for me, I whisper. You risked everything. Igor's voice is thick with emotion. You're worth everything. With Lilith's followers routed, Adrian and the others secure the fortress, leaving Igor and me a moment of quiet. He finds a discarded cloak to wrap around my shoulders, gently wiping away the grime and blood from my ordeal. His touch is more careful than ever, as though he fears I might break. I rest a hand on his cheek, meeting those golden eyes. Hey, I say softly. Don't look at me like that. He exhales shakily. Like what? Like you failed me, Igor, you saved me. My voice trembles, tears escaping despite my best efforts to hold them back. I was terrified, but I never doubted you'd come. His mouth tightens and I see the guilt flashing in his eyes. She hurt you. I glance at the scratch on my arm, a thin line of dried blood. A small wound. I'll heal. He lowers his head, voice thick with regret. You mean everything to me, Yvonne. If I lost you. I lean in, pressing a soft kiss to his lips. You won't. For a long moment, neither of us speaks. I feel his heart pounding, rapid, full of unshed anguish. Then he slides his arms around me, pulling me close until we're standing amid the fortress debris, locked in a moment that is both tender and raw. Day later, the labyrinth of halls in Igor's ancestral estate has never felt so welcoming. A storm rages outside, rain splattering against the windows, but inside is warm and filled with the quiet hum of safety. Despite everything, we won. I notice Igor by a large window staring at the downpour. His posture is stiff, his usually impassive face lined with worry. Without a word, I slip beside him and lay my head on his shoulder. He speaks softly, as if carrying a heavy burden. Lilith was an old rival. There might be more like her. Enemies who see you as my weakness. I'm not a weakness, I say gently. He turns to me, eyes glimmering with sorrow. I know. But they will use you to hurt me. My pulse flickers. They can try. I inhale, remembering how helpless I felt when Lilith abducted me. But that was then. Igor, I begin. I don't want to be a liability. I want to be strong. Stronger than I've ever been. His gaze shifts, searching my expression. You are strong. Stronger than you realize. I grasp his hands, warm despite his cold ring. Then help me. Teach me. A flicker of pride crosses his face. I'll teach you everything I know. We stand there for a while, letting the storm pass. My wounds are healing, but the memory of captivity lingers. It fuels me, fueling a desire to never be that vulnerable again. And yet, as Igor's arms envelop me, I realize I don't have to fight alone anymore. Epiphany. It's near midnight when we find ourselves in the library. A space filled with ancient tomes chronicling the history of vampires and their realms. Igor paces, restless. I watch him, letting the storm lamp's warm glow cast shadows across his face. Talk to me, I say softly. He halts, turning toward me with a look of deep conflict. I realize something. During the fight with Lilith. He clenches his fists. I've held on to so much anger, centuries of bitterness. When she threatened you, I almost lost control. I wanted to tear everything apart. You didn't, I remind him, stepping closer. You saved me. He lowers his gaze. Because of you, Yvonne. You made me remember I'm not just a monster. After a moment's hesitation, he takes my hands. I'm sorry if I frightened you. I squeeze his fingers, heat fluttering in my chest. You didn't frighten me. You made me feel safe. I tilt my head, meeting his eyes. I love you, Igor. For the first time since our rescue, a genuine smile curves his lips. I love you more than you can imagine. We talk for hours about the next steps, about training me, about fortifying the estate's defenses. But as the wind howls and lightning illuminates the night sky, conversation turns to something gentler. Us. Igor laces his fingers with mine. Evan, do you remember the day we wed? You told me you wanted a life free from fear. I nod. I never really believed it could happen. My voice trembles with emotion. But with you, somehow, I do. His thumb brushes across my lips. Then let me banish every fear you have. Let me show you that this world, though dark, can still be filled with love. Thunder rumbles outside, but in that room it might as well be miles away. He bends down to kiss me, softly at first, then deeper as the memory of our recent peril lingers on the edges of our consciousness. Every breath is a promise, every touch a reaffirmation that we are both alive, and we are together. When we pull apart, I see the depth of his longing. I want a future with you, he admits, voice rough with vulnerability. Whatever that means, no more running, no more hiding. Warmth surges in my chest, tears gathering at the corners of my eyes. Then we'll face everything that comes our way side by side. He kisses me again, and this time the world melts away. There is only us, bound by a love strong enough to challenge any ancient foe. My heart swells, full of possibilities I never imagined. We have battles yet to fight, but for now, in his arms, I find my place, my purpose, my home.